Thank you for tuning in to First Times. On today's episode, we are going to be speaking with Gabrielle. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem, Tasha.
She has a very interesting story to tell us, and she is an inspiring actress and model. And I was telling her earlier when she sent her pictures to me, I was quite surprised, and I definitely wanted her on the show. She's beautiful, interesting, and it's going to be a great show today, so I hope you guys enjoy. So, tell us your story.
So my first time ended up creating a lot of drama for me. I was in the 9th grade. I went to French immersion school, and pretty much all of the kids from my elementary school, we all went to the same high school. But there was a few new kids, so this was like the new good-looking boy in class that everyone was talking to. And one of my best friend at the time actually was also talking to him. But I didn't know that because high school drama,
Right.
secrets, this and that. So me and him, we were texting, we were talking, and then semi-formal was coming, and it was a half day that day. So we're like, oh, well, let's hang out when school's done. School's done at 12, and then we can go home, get ready, and go to the semi-formal. And being 15, neither of us have a place to go. The school was open.
Right.
So being young and curious teenagers, we stayed after school, went into the girls' bathroom. One thing led to another, and that was my first time. And thinking back on it, it's really funny, like losing it in the girls' bathroom. And not even thinking about the consequences of it afterwards. Like, the whole school ended up finding out, like including a lot of my teachers. So like being grade 9, that set like a really bad reputation for me. And since my friend was also into him, it started a whole bunch of drama. All of the girls in our clique kicked me out of the clique, and I was like the hated one. No one spoke to me. It was ridiculous and way blown out of proportion, but yeah, and it kind of sucked. Like it's sad that we just did it for the sake of doing it. Like,
Right.
There was no emotional attachment. It was like, oh, I think you're attractive, you think I'm attractive, let's just do it. And we never spoke again.
Ever.
Ever, which is really weird. I see him all the time because we still have the same group of friends, so I'll see him the odd time if we have like a high school reunion type thing.
Right.
And like, it's not awkward between us because I think although we were young, we kind of had the idea that this is just a sexual thing, like
Right.
there's no relationship. So when I see him, we talk about everything but what happened. And like, it's weird because everyone at school was talking about us for months, like, oh my God, did you hear, blah, blah, blah. Like, I would be walking down the halls and people would make comments at me. Like, it was just ridiculous. And it was only me, actually, and he never got any backlash. Like, I was the slut, he was the cool guy, you know what I
That
mean?
always
Which
happens.
is annoying, and it's
Yeah.
it's weird and annoying that women who choose to have one-night stands are viewed as sluts and men get the high five.
Yeah. So, how did everybody find out?
That's a whole other story. We had both kept it as a secret for a long time, and then
Right.
I invited a few friends over for drinks, even though we're underage and shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
Drank a little bit too much, and I'm like, oh, like I have a secret to tell you guys, blah, 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 but like you have to promise not to tell anyone. And so I told them, and I didn't know that one of my friends was on the phone at the time, and while she's on the phone, she's like, oh my God, like guess what Gabby did? And told like 5 other boys that were in the grade, and then it spread like wildfire. And like, I remember being so mad at her. Like, we got in a really intense fight, actually. Like, it ended up getting physical, which just made me look even worse. I looked like the
Yeah.
crazy one for freaking out, but like, it ruined my reputation. And like, I knew that was gonna happen in high school, drama, gossip. Like, I knew I was gonna go to school on Monday and everyone was gonna, oh, you're a slut, blah, 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 which is what happened. But we still ended up being friends. Me and the girl that told my secret, we're actually still really good friends. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but it created a bunch of drama in our group.
So long term, how did that affect you? Like, How did it affect you socially? How did it affect you emotionally? Like, do you think that you were too young to do it?
Um, I wouldn't say I was too young because, like, for me personally, I felt ready. Like, we did it because we both wanted to. So I don't regret it at all. Emotionally, I think I was more distraught at the fact that my friends dropped me over it.
Right.
You know, not so much like that me and him no longer had a relationship because it was never anything serious anyways. But I guess like the biggest effect was more like the social aspect. Like I was like an outcast for a while.
Right.
And like eating lunch by myself and all that stupid stuff, which I wasn't expecting. But I think overall that the situation made me a little bit more comfortable for my future sexual encounters. And and I think that both of us being virgins and both of us not knowing what we were doing kind of allowed us to explore and like learn each other's bodies. And I think from that I kind of took in that like everyone's different.
Right.
From all my more recent sexual encounters, like everyone's different, everyone likes different things, and it's like a new experience every time, right? So
Now, you want to come on the show because you felt the same as I do, that this topic needs to be discussed. It needs to be talked about. There is a lot of people out there who want to know what it's like for the first time.
Yeah.
They're scared to take that step, that they're just nervous. Like,
Yeah.
it's a big step. You know, for me, I mean, I've had sex for years. I have a lot of partners, but so this is something, a way to express yourself. Do you have any advice for them?
don't do it unless you're ready. Definitely don't do it unless you're ready. And being like the first out of my group of girlfriends to lose their virginity, a lot of them would ask me questions like, what do you do? How do you do it? And like I always told them, like, you're clearly not ready. Don't indulge into it if you're not ready, because it is an emotional, for females I feel like it's an emotional thing to
Right.
give yourself to somebody like that. And a lot of my friends waited, and I think if you're not ready, if you're not comfortable, like if you're not thinking about it on a consistent basis, and if you don't find someone that you're comfortable with, then it's going to be a really awkward situation, because it's already awkward losing it your first time. So
Yeah.
I guess my best advice would just be like, don't do it unless you're ready, and make sure you talk to them about it, like what both of your expectations are before you get ready, and be safe about it.
It's kind of hard to do that in the moment.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where it's going to just happen.
Yeah.
So the question about the experience itself, I have a couple things. Did you guys use protection?
No, actually, we didn't. It wasn't the intention to even go that far. Like I
Right.
said, one thing led to another. It was just supposed to be like a makeout session, and
Right.
it got way more intense than expected. And it's funny because like it was more just like to finish, if you know what I mean. It was just like, oh, like just for like 2 seconds, and then
Yeah.
like the 2 seconds ended up being longer than 2 seconds. And yeah, so there was no protection involved because that wasn't the plan.
So were
Which
you
is-
scared afterwards? Like, how did you deal with that emotionally, being at that age and possibly of diseases or pregnancy?
Yeah, it's gonna sound bad, but like I really wasn't worried about it. I think just because we were both virgins, so I wasn't
Right.
really worried about any STDs or anything like that. Did I regret it a little bit after? Yeah, because I gave it away so easily. You know what
Right.
I mean? And I knew like nothing was gonna come out of it. Like there was no relationship. There was no emotional attachment. I just did it for the sake of doing it. And it was like, well, I could have just waited. What's the rush? I'm so young. But
Right. So what about the actual experience itself? Was it everything you thought it would be? Was it a disappointment? Was it?
no, it's definitely everything I thought it would be. I definitely feel like the sex education teachers lied, saying that condoms don't take away the effect. Now that I know the difference, they definitely lied.
Yeah,
But it is always best to stay protected.
definitely.
It's definitely is everything expected, and probably still one of my best times. Best
I know.
time.
I know the teachers actually do that. They say that the condom doesn't take away the effect. That it's just like doing it,
Yeah.
and that's 100% untrue. And they shouldn't lie to people about what it's going to feel like. There needs to be honesty about it. That the fact is that if you don't use protection, you have a chance of getting an STD, any type of STD, or you have a chance of getting pregnant. You know, those are things that I think are real possibilities. And the fact is that, yes, it's not going to feel as good as what a bareback having sex is, but there are new condoms out there that are, you know, really good condoms that are very light and
The thin ones, right?
Right,
Yeah.
and it almost feels normal. And to be honest with you, it's more for the guy that they have less feeling than the girl.
Yeah, yeah.
So screw the guys.
Stay safe.
Exactly. So what about your next experience after this experience, when you actually had sex that was planned?
My next experience was with a older guy. It was later on in my grade 9 year. Call me very curious, I guess. And it was not as good, actually. I thought it would be with an older guy. He has more experience, blah, blah, blah. But he expected a lot more from me. So there was a little bit of pressure, like me being on top, and like I didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? I had never done that before, like being in the bathroom stall. Like I was sitting on the toilet. It was gross, but like you know what I mean? He did all the work pretty much. So like when I had to flip roles for the first time, it was like, whoa, like this is hard. I don't know what to do. And like it, being younger, like I was kind of embarrassed because he was like, oh, like you don't know what you're doing, and he kind of just like flipped me over, and I'm like, wow, this
Oh my gosh,
this is degrading. And I kind of realized then, like, this is why they say do it with someone you care about, because it adds a different emotional effect to it rather than just like body pleasure. So next time wasn't as enjoyable for me.
That's kind of sad. But
Yeah.
it's weird though, because a lot of people, like when I got a lot of responses for the show, a lot of people actually said their first time was horrible. So it's kind of pleasurable that your first time was pleasurable, but your second time was horrible.
Yeah, it's weird how it ended up working like that. Yeah, the after effects of the first time was horrible, but the actual act was definitely enjoyable. Yeah.
But do you think anything from that experience has stayed with you other than the negative part of it? I mean, the positive part of that experience, has that changed you in any way for the way you are with sexual partners now? Did you learn anything from that?
From my first time?
Yeah.
Not really, I guess. I guess more the second time I kind of took more of a learning experience to kind of pick your partners. You know what I mean? You don't just have to have sex for the sake of having sex, which if you want to do that, by all means, go ahead. But I think being young and promiscuous, I just thought, like, there's a boy, like, why not? That's what they want. You know, like, that's kind of how I also viewed it, like, to get him to like me, like, that's what I have to do. And, like, I realized throughout high school, you don't have to let them learn who you are before you give your body out. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I think it needs to be talked about, because I've noticed that it's happening a lot younger and younger. Like, I was 15, but my brother, he's 16 now, and I remember when he was in the 8th grade, he was telling me that his friends were having sex, and I was like, oh my God, like, that can't be happening. Like, this needs to be talked about. Like, that's way too young, in my opinion.
Yeah, I found that a lot, it's getting younger and younger and younger.
Yeah.
The age of people having sex and being more promiscuous and having multiple partners at that age.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit of a different example because I was promiscuous when I was much younger.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at my cousins and my nieces and my family, and I couldn't picture,
Yeah,
my
it's
niece
just weird.
doing something like that. Like, I mean, that's just too young, but you hear it all the time, so.
All the time. And like they start teaching sex ed at a young age, right? So kids are already wondering, curious, they're learning about body parts, they're discovering their own body, and for me personally in elementary school, it's all we talked about. And I think that's what engaged my early promiscuous activity. Because, like, I also grew up hanging out with guys, and we all know that guys are more horny, obviously.
Yeah.
So just them telling me, like, their fantasies and all this stuff, it just, by the time I hit high school, I just felt ready. But I think that most people feel like they're ready before they actually are ready. And then they regret it afterwards. Like, even one of my good friends waited until we were done high school, and then she's like, everyone's done it but me, and she's like, I must be ready, like everyone has, and she just did it, and she's like, I shouldn't have done that. You know?
Do you think, you made a really valid point, do you think that them starting to teach sex ed at an early age in elementary school is a positive or is it a negative?
I think it goes both ways, because, like, they need to know about it anyways. Like, girls are getting their periods at that age and everything, so, like, to wait is, or to start it earlier, it's kind of up in the air. But, like, it also, it's not something I ever talked to my parents about. Like, I always just learned it at school, through friends, through the internet. And I think you kind of have to balance school and parenting. I think it's something that all parents, like, if I were to have a kid, that's something I would talk to my kid about.
Right.
Like, even when I did lose my virginity, like, I was like, I lied to my parents, and I said, like, oh, I'm staying at my friend's house, blah, 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 and, like, it just makes a weird, I feel like it would have been easier knowing that I could go to my parents and, like, say, like, oh, like, I messed up, or, oh, I need birth control, and this and that, and, like, because when I did eventually get a boyfriend and it started to become a more frequent thing, like, I was afraid to ask my mom, like, for birth control, right? Because we had never spoke about it. And I think if you have a comfortable enough relationship with your parents, because as a parent, you know it's going to happen eventually down the road. So I think between the school and parenting, if you could balance it somehow, younger is better, but it has some downside, obviously.
Definitely. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a great interview, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Tasha. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we will see you next week with a new episode of First Times.